Right, good evening. It's episode 170. It's Friday the 7th of March. It's been 2 minutes since I was last here, right? So how's everybody doing? Happy Friday, happy Chocky Chat crew. Nettie, I can see, hello. Tonight, I am hoping that we're going to get Kerry Beal from EzTemper's. She can have a chat tonight, so let's hope all the cameras join up and all that kind of thing tonight. Mo the Baker, how are you? Billy, Scottish Chocolate, it's Temper, how are you? Ruth joined us. How are you doing, Ruth? Good evening, Chocky Chat crew. Good evening, everybody. Bruce is there. How are you doing, Bruce? And Philippe Vieira. Philippe is the... What else have we got? Melissa's joined. God, did everybody see Melissa's... Did you see Melissa's orange? No, it was the lemon puree. Absolutely amazing. Right, EzTemper is there. I'm going to... you a request there. If you click that one, hopefully the cameras will. Hello.
Hello. I'm good. Hello. Well, technically challenged, however.
Technically challenged.
Yes. I was trying to figure out how to do this on my iPad, but I can't figure out how to turn the volume on my iPad.
Can you hear? You can hear me, okay, can't you?
Yep. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Welcome to Chocky Chat.
Thank you.
I'm just going to tell everybody right now. This is not a because we have to do these things now, don't we? It's not a paid. This is not a paid promotion. It's not. It's not. We haven't done a deal. There's absolutely. I had a lovely chat with Ruth, who you know. Ruth said you need to get Kerry on to have a chat. Everybody knows EzTemper. Certainly, everybody in Chocky Chat knows EzTemper. Game-changing machine. Not paid promotion in any way. And I wanted to talk to you because we've texted back and forth a little bit. Whilst we all know the machine, but it's the person behind it. And for everybody that's in Chocky Chat, we're 3 years. I think we're 3 years in now. 170 weeks of sitting here on a Friday night, mostly listening to me. But it's nice to have guests occasionally where I can just listen to what's going on. But Kerry, welcome. So you've been working in chocolate a long time. You've taught thousands, right?
I'd say probably fair to say.
Thousands.
Probably.
Okay. EzTemper. What? How did it start? Tell us about you, and how did that come about? But you were obviously teaching before.
Yeah. So probably a little more than 25 years ago. Are you familiar with Fine Cooking magazine? It's an American.
Rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful recipes, really well done, properly tested. In the back of every Fine Cooking magazine, there was an ad for the Sensation chocolate tempering machine. Yeah. Now, I would go through every phase of cooking, my Japanese phase, my Chinese phase, my Greek phase. And I saw
now it's a Dubai bar.
Yeah, and I saw this ad and I thought, one day I'm going to have me one of those, right? This was pre-internet days. You couldn't just, put your credit card in there. And back in those days, you couldn't get things easily from the States anyway, right? And this was an American company. So I ended up with my hubby down at in Sur La Table in San Francisco. And we were down in the basement of this fancy posh cooking store. And there was this Sensation chocolate tempering machine. And I said to hubby, can I have it? The response is probably, can I stop you? But it cost me about 650 Canadian dollars to get that thing home.
And what was
it tempered?
Was it a continuous tempering machine or?
It's a little. They're called Revolution now.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Rev Tempers, yeah.
Yeah, only 1.5 pounds of chocolate. Sounds like a hairdryer going off for hours on end.
No.
Yeah. So I decided that it was fine for sort of a couple of years, did a few things at Easter, a few things at Christmas. And then I decided that I needed to learn to temper more quietly. So I had run into a friend up in, or she wasn't a friend at that time, run into a woman who had a chocolate store up in Manitoulin Island where I used to do locums in the summertime.
Yeah.
And she had one of these as well. I tried to talk her into buying mine from me, but I asked her where she had learned to temper chocolate. And she had learned from a fellow called Joe Calabro in Ottawa, who taught at the Cordon Bleu. But he had a bakery, like a lovely patisserie. But he taught classes in a little room that he had upstairs. And he said to me, if I could get 6 people together, then he would run a course. So he managed to get 6 people together. And when I showed up, none of the rest of them showed up. They all canceled. So it was just Joe and me. And I think he was a little worried because he wasn't really comfortable being alone with a woman in his shop all by himself.
Okay.
However, that lasted all of about 5 minutes when we realized that he realized I wasn't dangerous. And so he taught me to temper by hand. I taught him how to make little truffle mice that he sells in his shop now. It was very interesting because I'd read all the books on how to temper, and I wasn't aware at that point that there are as many different ways to temper.
It's confusing. This is what causes the confusion.
Yeah, so I couldn't reconcile doing the basically seeding method versus the wild crystallization method. I couldn't make sense of this. He showed me once and it was like, oh shit. All right, well, that's easy. So I came home from that and I actually made a series of 3 educational DVDs on how to temper chocolate. All stuff, of course, that you can find online these days. So I've, out of the 1,000 copies of 3 volumes that I had made, I probably have, maybe 900.
Still have them?
Oh my God, yes, actually, look, here, I am at my office. This is volume 1 of The Chocolate Doctor.
Wow.
Picture of me on the back.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Still white hair even then. Yep. And so, of course, nobody has DVD players anymore. So I will occasionally tuck one in when I'm selling somebody an EzTemper who knows nothing about how to temper, so that they can at least learn the basics. I mean, I knew so little at that point, which actually made them extremely useful because it was do it this way. Do it this way and it will work.
Each person you went to, it was do it a different way.
Well, I mean, there was, yeah, exactly. And there is several different ways. So I actually showed them sort of the seeding method and the wild crystallization method, the slab method and all the rest of that. I showed them that. And I sent out a little card with it that basically shows all the temperatures in Celsius and American, so that they can translate. Yeah.
I love you say that, in Celsius and American.
And American, yeah. Well, I grew up.
That's Fahrenheit.
In
nobody else uses Fahrenheit.
No.
And all the chocolatiers I know in the US use centigrade now as well. So
some of the chocolatiers, it's funny when you see recipes that are in ounces and stuff, though, which it's like, how can you take 1/6 of an ounce? Like grams are so easy because they're multiples of 10, right?
Yeah, water boils at 100 and it freezes at 0. It's it's quite straightforward, right? It's just
very much so. Very much so.
So what was the key moment where you said, right, well, if we incubate cocoa butter, because this is like I went, when I was 16, it was 1986. It was poured chocolate on a slab. A lot of the chocolate that we got was not in temper anyway, so you just had to melt it and then temper it. And they looked like pretty rough blocks and they were thick, the big 10-pound type.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's what I started with.
You chiseled, everybody had no tip on their knife from chisel. You could tell a pastry chef just looking at the end of their knife.
Denting your floor when they hit the floor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was, sweep it around the table. And I remember stirring this stuff, saying, I have no idea what's going on here.
Yes. Exactly.
And I worked for a famous guy that was to do with Charbonnel Walker in London, and it's only when he explained to me the only thing we're tempering is cocoa butter. The cocoa mass, the sugar, it's not relevant. And it was that moment. It's like, oh really? Nobody's ever mentioned it like that, because we talk about chocolate, we don't talk about the ingredient that's in it. So I guess go on. let you finish. You were saying, so you were doing the DVDs.
Oh yeah, so I did the DVD. This was well after the DVDs. This was 2014 or so. I was doing a talk down at SUNY. What does it stand for? Something or other University of New York.
Yeah.
Satellite University of New York. A couple of the people that I know from eGullet. I don't know. Are you familiar with eGullet?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a foodie forum.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a foodie forum that we all know each other from. Like
Yeah.
this is how Ruth and I know each other. This is
Yeah.
how
This is
I know.
before. This is before social media was really kind of like, that's where you went to.
Yeah, yeah. So they invited me to come down and talk to the chemistry class about chocolate. So of course, oh my God, I've got to prepare this talk. So I went up to the University of Guelph and spoke to a lovely fat chemist there, a skinny fat chemist by the name of Alejandro Marangoni, who is absolute guru in fat chemistry. And he studied chocolate, cocoa butter crystals as well as butter crystals and stuff. And he gave me some electron microphotographs of different cocoa butter crystals.
Wow.
So I had them for my talk.
Have you still got those?
I still have the talk
See that. Yeah.
on a series of slides.
Yeah.
I just was looking at it actually the other day, and the pictures are actually in there. And so okay, so I've now got this idea in my head, and somehow in the discussion, it came up, or in my reading around it, it came up that in somewhere in Europe, they were actually using cocoa butter crystals to temper chocolate. And so I was reading through Beckett, and Beckett has a table of the melting temperatures of the various cocoa butter crystals. And it was sort of one of those eureka moments that I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if form 4 melts out at 33 and form 5 melts out at 34, then somewhere in between 33 and 34, there is going to be a sweet spot where there is nothing but form 5 crystals sitting in there.
Wow.
So I had been a beta tester back in 2008 for the sous vide magic, which was Frank's project. And we'd done all sorts, my friend Anna and I had done all sorts of testing for him on that machine. And so I pulled out my sous vide magic and I threw a jar of cocoa butter in there at about 33.5 degrees. And what I realized after doing the few times is if it had that silky consistency, it was
form 5.
Nothing but form 5.
Wow.
At which point I named it Cocoa Butter Silk. Now, if you want to hear me bitch, I will tell you how that name has been stolen from me by a delightful fellow in the States and turned into something that is not what I call. If I was going to trademark anything, I should have trademarked silk. I realized.
Yeah, well, it's intellectual property. I think that, the word's thrown around a lot, but it's
everybody calls it silk now. Everybody calls it all around the world. Everybody talks about silk, and they talk about. Rodney's on the other end. Don't. I'm not to bitch about this guy. Yes. Anyway, I won't bitch about it, but I have to leave certain discussions when they start talking about silk and talking about grading it, like seriously, people.
So grating, so micro and silk are different things, right?
Micrio is theoretically form 6. Which is why you have to be at a higher temperature for it. But they've stopped making Micrio now, right?
I believe so. It's hard to get an actual answer because the brands that make it don't necessarily answer. I've heard, some people are stocking it and said, yeah, it's available, and then others are like, no, they can't get it. And I think it's geographically in the world, there's areas it's available and there's areas it's not.
Right.
But I was in a kitchen years ago, with the chefs, because we got given micro, and it was we're in a 3 Michelin star restaurant, so we were using it because it was a clarified
Yeah,
neutral butter, right?
you were using it for emulsions. You were using it
We
for
were dipping
frying.
scallops in it. I mean, we were just opening the tub and dipping scallops in it and frying because it is
Yeah,
odorless and neutral, and it got to a very high temperature.
right.
Unlike olive oil, which has kind of got a
Yeah,
burn point of
yeah,
128, or
yeah,
you ruin it.
yeah.
And it was only the pastry chef that came in and said, "I think that's beta crystals," and took it away.
Right.
We were like, you might not want to use that because it's a little bit fishy. We put langoustine tails and scallops in it, and there's all kind of clumps in there. And he was adding it to chocolate and done his tests, and then suddenly, they're off away, and they're like, well, that's how we temper chocolate, and it's easier. So I was in the kitchen kind of when that happened. Silk was fairly new to me. I had Kadzama, and I got so far with it, and then I got Easy Temper, and then when we started doing this range of stuff here.
Yep.
It kind of became crucial. And then with the teaching, I think, well, one of the things I talk about on Chocky Chat so often is, if I was going to start again, I think I said this to you already. If I was going to start again, it would have been a priority purchase earlier,
Yep.
because it's not, a tempering machine is one thing, right?
Yep.
But that's just chocolate. It's not going to do my fillings. It's not going to do my colors. It's not going to do some of the other
Yep.
things that I want to do. So you realized that you had form 5 crystals. So what were the steps to put that in chocolate? Did you do lots of taste test analysis on?
I just basically plunked it into my melted chocolate at about the same temperature, gave it a stir, and realized, and I actually managed to buy a tempermeter.
Yeah.
So I did a bunch of tests with the tempermeter. I also did tests where I graded it up. I did tests where I put chocolate in the machine instead of cocoa butter in the machine. Doesn't work. People ask me that on a pretty regular basis. Can I just
Okay,
put
yeah, I
chocolate?
get that a lot
Like,
as well. It's like, well, you can try it, but it's not very helpful.
you
It's really
can
about. I mean, I talk about how, because we're growing crystals, and they get bigger. They start at 1 micron size and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. I think the biggest question I get is how fluid should it be? And that's a tough one because it depends on the cocoa butter, doesn't it?
I tell people somewhere between the consistency of face lotion, like of lotion,
Yep.
and face cream.
Yeah.
But it a lot depends on, a lot, the temperature can vary. I have seen cocoa butters that require 34.5 degrees to get to there, and some that everything melts out at 32.5.
So we do a huge amount of research on the types of butter that we use in the production of the colours.
Right.
And we've had 50 or 60 different varieties from different areas, and they all behave, when you really dial down kind of molecular level, they behave very, very differently. And when you look at, we have access to labs, so we can look at the micron size as that butter, as those crystals grow in terms of their size and how robust they are. I think one of the things I've noticed is if you incubate, so you can use it after 12 hours, but it's better after 24 hours. But where we've been away for a couple of weeks and come back, it's so over crystallized, it's really, really thick, and even at a higher temperature.
So you're actually seeing it thicken up over time. I don't find it thickens up over time. I find that often you get some melty stuff on the top, which I just stir back in and off I go.
If I blend it and I continue just to blend it with a
stick blender, with a okay, right, okay.
You can what do I want to say? It's a bit like a Newtonian fluid. In it seems quite thin, and then when you stir it, it just seems to thicken up. And then it become a real dollop. But then when you put it into chocolate, it blends in really easily. So there's obviously a build-up of crystal growth there, isn't there? Because there would be with incubation, right? That's how.
Well, you know what I spend a lot of time telling people is when it's melted, they're gone. You're not getting it back. Like once those crystals are gone, they're gone. So you can turn it down to 33.5 after you've screwed up or the fan's gone out, but they're not coming back. You have to take it out, put it at room temperature till it's completely solid again, and then you have to put
blue light.
The blue light, yes, the infamous blue light. Now, in the whole design process, I lost out in a few cases. One was the swinging lid, which
Right.
I don't want. And the other was, why do we need a switch on the fan when we don't want them to turn the fan off? Yes.
I I get sent these, and I guess maybe they've contacted you or even got the email, and I get questions, and it's like, all my butter's turned to liquid. It's like, you just show me a video of the top of it, and it's like, yeah, you need to turn the blue
Yeah.
light on.
Turn the fan,
Um,
turn the fan on. Yeah.
the amount of times I've knocked that, come down in the morning, and gone, oh right, and then it's all. So if I turn it on and just leave it, no, when once we get above 33.8, those crystals are gone.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
It's like a
Now,
magic switch. They've gone,
you
and
have
now it's very
you have more than one machine
yeah.
there. So what you can do is the one where where the light has gone off, or where the fan has gone off, you can cool it down to about 33, and you can seat it with
Yeah,
something from another
yeah,
jar.
which we've
Oh
done.
yeah, yeah.
Which we've done.
Mhm.
Well, no, I had a big order, and I came down, and I'd switched off the whole thing, and it's
Yeah,
there's no coming back from that. And I think the worst one was the Kadzama, and it's not your machine, but there's an on-off button right at the point where the table would
oh
push against a
oh
bracket.
yeah,
Really handy,
yeah.
and you come downstairs and you're like, I've got 1,000 bonbons to make, so like, not today, I haven't, because I'm not going to
Yeah.
see.
I'm too lazy. Once you become accustomed to it and
um,
dependent, tempering the regular way, oh screw that
um,
noise, right?
I have students, and they're like, I'd like to know how to. It's like, no, just don't. I think this is a priority purchase. I think that for those that, and there's lots in Chocky Chat that have Easy Temper. Um, Once you've got used to it, and it does the colours and it does the fillings, and you realise that you can speed up the crystallization of fillings as
Yeah,
well, so that as soon as that filling's firm, we can cap it. The process speeds up massively with colours. I can use colours at a higher temperature, so we can
yeah,
add it in at 34 degrees, and we can spray at 32
yeah,
because it's so aggressive.
yeah.
Um, it ticks many boxes. I think that um, there's a young lady here, Kelly Wessel, who she's turned off the blue light, and she messaged me saying, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Well, just wait a day."
Yeah, take it out to solidify it, and then put it back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and don't
so
put it in the fridge to solidify it, because
there have
that
been different incarnations of the machine. Then I saw the one that had the bracket. Is it like a leather strap or on the
it's
back?
a silicone strap. Yeah, that was version 1. We're on version 2 right now. We are working on version 3,
Really?
uh, but it is, yeah. I've got about 100 units left to sell out of batch number 2. So it's a matter of lighting a fire under my hubby's ass to get version 3 underway. But I've got to think about CE certification. I got to think about NSF certification. Um,
Is the new version massively? This is intriguing. I don't want to give all your secrets away. Is it hugely different?
it's going to have a lid of my choice,
Okay.
probably
Right.
this.
You've already answered that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Um, it may or may not have a fan.
Okay.
Um, it definitely will have a different fan, um, something more in the way of a turbine type fan.
Yeah.
Um, and all the wiring and stuff like that's not going to be in the lid. It's going to be like it's just going to be logistically different, I suppose, when
Okay.
you get.
Aesthetically different. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were saying so that you had that moment where it was like, right, I've got Form 5 crystal. Then the design of the machine must have come after that.
Yes, and that I did have help from the fellow who actually did the sous vide magic, actually, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, how are we going to make an air sous vide is basically what I said. So
Okay.
our first experiments used a Chinese or might have been a Taiwanese. You know those things where you heat up your food in a container and then you put it inside an insulated container and you put the lid down and it cooks
Yeah.
all day without
Yeah,
actually.
we used to call them hay boxes, but yeah, that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
insulated cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we used that as our vessel. There was a little fan just sitting in there. There was feedback to a controller. Yeah, and it sort of grew from there. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I mean, it's. I can't think of another piece of machinery that's changed an industry, not just for the professional market, but for the domestic market as well.
Yes, and I mean, like I say, they were in Europe. They were using these machines industrially, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I've never seen one of the original ones that I'd heard about, and they don't make them. They don't seem to make them anymore. Statis was the company that made them,
Yeah.
and so yeah, they don't make those ones anymore. But I've forgotten what I was talking about. I was watching a question go by and
Yeah.
I got distracted.
I have to sit here and I have to talk, and I have to listen, and then I'm trying to see the questions as well. And there's people asking things, and it's like I don't know. And then Instagram just moves all the questions up to the top, and I sit here having to scroll. Most people swipe left or right. I end up scrolling down. So there's, I mean, there's some interesting questions here.
We should
Um,
we should probably address the questions that have come
Yeah,
up.
try to scroll back a
Yeah.
little bit and let me scroll. I'm gonna have to scroll back like 30 minutes here. Give me a moment. Um, Somebody's saying that, so Bruce is saying, didn't the original machine did the what was the desktop? Didn't it have a light bulb as the heat source?
No, that was a tempering machine.
That was the temporary
That
machine.
was the um oh, what's the name of that company, Rodney? We were always beside them at trade shows, and they never tempered their chocolate in their machines, um, and so we would temper the chocolate in their machines so that when they used their little enrober that just went off into nowhere,
Right,
at least the pretzels would actually have tempered chocolate on them instead of never drying.
right, yeah.
I hope no, I want to say Hobart, but it's not. It's not Hobart. Hilliard machine. They used a light bulb, and now they still make Hilliards, and you buy yourself a big supply of regular light bulbs but they also make a little heater that screws into a light bulb attachment that gives you the same amount of heat as a light bulb. I understand these days.
I do find it fascinating how, and I was having this chat with Chris Harvey about how industry invents things, but then when they give it to chefs actually, or people that are actually making things, say, "Well, I kind of need it to do this, and I need it," and then and that kind of you get this reinvention of something that is just much more user friendly, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that happens a lot. Ruth saying that micro is back in stock in the States.
Oh, okay. Well, then
I
they must have they must have there must have been enough hue and cry for people realizing they used it for certain things. Um, but I think it still does have its use for your frying your scallops, right?
Well, yeah. Do you know what it was? Is so we used to use clarified butter, and I want to say that's an expensive process, but
These days,
in
cocoa
some
butter.
restaurants that the quality of that butter is not, it's not a block of fat from a cow. It's
Yeah,
so being able to, like with the scallops or some of the softer seafood, langoustines and lobster tails and things, being able to kind of enrobe them in the butter and put them onto sear onto these plancha
right.
grills.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, was much, but the clarified, the cocoa butter gets to a much higher
yeah,
temperature, much higher than butter. Okay,
yeah,
and then if somebody's clarified the butter and it's not completely clear of the milk solids, you get all these little burnt black bits on it,
yeah,
and you try and put that in front of a chef at 3 Michelin star, and it's going to come back
yeah,
at you like an
yeah,
arrow.
for sure.
So cocoa butter was the answer, but nowhere on that packaging did it say it was for tempering chocolate. Nowhere, and
No, no, exactly.
it still doesn't say that. And
Right.
even when I have students here, I say, like, just read the back of it, and good it's a good initial way for them to understand what tempering is, because tempering chocolate has been made so complicated with different versions of what you read, and I don't think people really need to know about crystals 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're interesting, but they're not helpful. Um, read about it in your own time. We're really only after that fifth one. I think the joy of silk is that if you can, with the thermometer, if you can get your chocolate to 34, 33.8, and add a dollop of silk.
Yeah, you don't have
and,
to
and
take it all the way
stir.
up and back down again.
I was going to say, number one question I get asked is, do I need to melt my chocolate to 45? Nothing magical happens after 33.8.
Yeah, no, exactly. Once it's melted, that's all you need.
Melted is melted.
Yep.
There is no level of meltedness. In Chocky Chat, we talk about, like, I've always wanted to take the complicated words that chefs use. And I want to say educators. We talk about retraction, but what's happening is the chocolate's shrinking, right? The beta crystals make it
The
shrink,
crystals
which is the way.
are growing
Yeah.
together and tightening up. Yeah.
So it shrinks and it comes out of the mold. If you drop the temperature of your chocolate, it will shrink, right?
Yep.
Once you break some of those, you also don't need to be facing north and have your hand in your pocket and a blue dog. And I can't remember. I think it's facing north, blue trousers, yellow dog, phone in your left pocket, you know, all that stuff.
Chocolate cruel miss.
I've even had chefs with the tabling. It's you stir 3 times to the right and 2 to the left. And I
Yeah.
just and then we got this thing where they dip the stick in it. So I've got a bowl of tempered chocolate, put my stick in it, and then we heat that one up. They ain't the same thing.
Nope.
So we've blasted that in the microwave, and then they go, "Oh, my chocolate hasn't worked." It's like, no, because you've taken it out of temper because you melt the beta crystals. So it's somebody's asking here. Can you outline the steps for seeding a new batch of silk? My first batch worked, my second batch didn't. Temper, I think, is in maybe in Canada, could be in New Zealand. Would you seed a batch of silk? I wouldn't.
I only if I've had a melting incident.
Yeah.
And or the other thing is if I've had a lot of form 6 crystals form in my old cocoa butter and
Yeah.
I'm trying to rehabilitate that cocoa butter, what I will do is I'll heat it up to 60 degrees. I will cool it down. When I get it down to 30 something, I
Yeah.
will add that just so that it's quicker, pour it into containers. Yeah.
You can see there's some more questions. Bear with me because there's so many people waving and saying hello.
And Rodney wants us to know that Canada no longer has me Creo. They've
Okay. It's somebody said there was a shipping that the Easy Temper wasn't shipping. I don't know if you can clarify that or not. Oh, the sound's gone off. Lost the sound. You pulled something out, Kerry. I can't hear you. Oh no, there we go. We're back.
am I back? Yeah. What's happened is my power on my phone ran out. So I've had to plug it in. Now I've got to figure out a way to hold it up because now I've got the cord in the bottom of the phone.
Right. There's a question.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah,
Okay. All right.
perfectly. If you melted the cocoa butter, could you table temper the cocoa butter, then put it back in the Easy Temper? Would this work instead of waiting a day? Yes.
Yep.
Balance it over a bowl of cold water, cool it down that way, get it below kind of 30.
You gotta be careful with the cold.
Yeah.
What I have found is if you throw it in the fridge, you seem to skip the form 5s forming. I have tried numerous times, like freezer, fridge, whatever. Unless I leave it at room temperature, what I find is when I put it back in the machine after it's solidified, it just liquefies.
Really?
Yeah. So you somehow have to either seed it or just let it sit at room temperature long.
I've never. I should do this experiment. I've always used. So we buy cocoa butter in huge. Obviously, we got quite a few machines running. So we tend to we get the cocoa butter callets that are all purified and clarified,
Right.
and then we will pack those straight into the tin, and then they will go in there for the kind of 24 hours, and then I'll give them a stir after that because that kind of works for me for what we're doing. What I've never done is completely melt out cocoa butter, left that to stand, and then see whether that would grow the crystals again. I guess it's that cool down, isn't it?
It's the cool. You've got to have the cool down for those crystals to reform.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to be there. Yeah.
one attaches to, yeah, it's polymorphs, isn't it? So one attaches to another and they grow and grow and
Yep.
grow, right? Which is
Yep.
what happens when it's in the chocolate, right? So is it easier to warm the color separately and seed with the silk at 33.3? Yes. Rodney is asking, Chocodilic, it's easier to warm the color separately and see. Not quite sure I understand that question. I think it's an answer actually. Let me see.
If you want to use your EzTemper to keep your colors warm,
Yeah.
it's you got to think of the texture of the silk. That's going to be the same texture as your colors. So you need to take them and throw them a few seconds in the microwave
Yeah.
after you take them out of the EzTemper. It takes them to a nice, ready to go stage almost, and then
We will. So we've got a couple of options of what we do as an example. So I've always got a black and white in the machine because I'm teaching and they're the two colors that I'll kind of use more of anything of. We will sit those in the machine, but also we can stack the colors with lids on and stack them up, because from there we will just warm them up and teach people to cool them down.
right.
And if I'm doing larger amounts, then if I'm doing the bigger bottles, we'll empty a little bit. We'll warm them to 34, tip a little bit out, put the silk in, give it a really good shake, add the rest of it in. What I have found though is the silk is very aggressive, so you can
Yeah,
airbrush at a
you only
warmer
need the
temperature.
tiniest amount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can use the colors. I always say like spray at 26, 27, right? If I'm adding silk to the colours, and I will use those at 32, because as long as my mould is kind of around about that 20-degree mark, it it will spray, and literally you can watch it crystallise in the mould as you're spraying, because it's just so much more aggressive. Um,
I must confess, I don't temper my cocoa butter. I have my cocoa butter at 35 degrees when I'm spraying it,
yeah,
and count on it to temper itself, basically.
you spray through an airbrush or through a
Through it,
turbine.
so either through the airbrush or the air gun.
Okay.
When I'm painting, I pour my cocoa butter out onto a little piece of parchment paper. I
Yeah.
work it till I see it starting to thicken up, and that's when I
Okay.
I'm I futzing about using the EzTemper for that is just, Rodney does it all the time, but it's not my thing.
If we're doing a lot, if I've got 100 plus molds to spray, it's going to be 3 or 4 big bottles,
Yeah,
and I just, but those will fit in the machine as well.
right.
So
Yep, yep,
that's ideal as well. And then those other ones, it just gives me the smaller amounts.
yep.
Like, and I say this quite regularly. If I was going to shell 1 or 2 molds, I would never temper a 2-3 kilo-pound bag. I would
Yeah,
do the amount that I
yep,
need, right? The ones that we put in the EzTemper as that, we have to give them a blast for 10 seconds, and it turns to liquid almost
yep,
immediately, and we'll
yep,
just use it straight from there.
yep,
And I can put those in the night before, 12 hours maybe, and they're
yep,
actually they're good to go.
yep,
So
yep,
another great use of them, another great use of the machine.
yep.
Just trying to read some of the questions here. 1 second. So Emma's saying she stopped melting chocolate at 40 degrees, 45 degrees years ago. You don't have to. I, I
Yeah,
saw this
me
with
too.
I saw
Me too.
this with somebody suggested how to use silk the other. It's on a website. Melt the chocolate to 48, cool it down to 35, and then add the silk that you grate into it. It's like, wow, you're going to wait a long time from 45 degrees down to 30. You're going to wait in a long time, right? Melt it to 34 and go, right?
And if you're grading it, you might as well just put it straight into your hair. Static electricity. Boom.
Off. Well, you can, I've said to people, if you can grate it onto a little bit, do you know what's the culprit? Do you know the silicone
Yes,
mats?
I've got
If you got a silicone mat anywhere near you,
not
it,
here
it's
right
going to
now.
be,
I'm in the
it's,
office, so
it's going to grate everywhere
yeah.
apart from the bowl that you're trying to aim
No,
for, right?
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep,
And don't do it near if you've got an extractor on. Right, that doesn't work either.
yep.
I'm just trying to scroll through. We've got some questions. Um, So somebody's saying here, when will you resume shipping to the US?
I am continuing to ship to the US, but what happens is people just send me a message with their address, phone number. I figure out, I just send it out to them. I'm a little gun shy. I had a number of units that spent like 2-3 weeks in customs before Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Because of the threat of tariffs. So
Okay.
I'm finding it's just easier to have the control for somebody to contact me, and I think that I've written that on my website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ship all over the world, so I understand. I had some orders come back to me today, and every single one of them didn't have a phone number on them.
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely have to have a phone number so that they can get a hold of.
Yeah, because they're not going to sit there and write out your email address when they can't find where you are. They're going to pick up a phone and so I can't see any other questions. So you came up with that? When did the first machine come about that was EzTemper?
2015.
So relatively new,
We
10 years ago.
presented it at the Fine Chocolate Industry Association meeting in New York.
Okay.
Actually, I think Rodney went without me because I wasn't available for that one. Yep.
So yeah, so 10 years.
Yep. So we spent a lot of time going to a lot of different trade shows, which when COVID hit was wonderful, really, because people knew about the machine. People were at home. They had no jobs or they had nothing, they couldn't get out of the house. So they all decided to become chocolatiers.
Yep.
And I
or
sold
bakers.
a crap load of machines.
Really?
I sell more now than I did, I suppose, then, but that was when it really, really took off.
COVID, you get mixed, not reviews, but like for some people, COVID was a really good thing. I know so many people. COVID was the spark that made them start their own business.
Right. Yes.
Me included, right? And I was an employee for many, many, many years, making other people rich.
Yep.
And COVID was one of those things that people actually had time at home to say, what is it I'd like to do? Again, Seren wants to say hello. Say hello to Kerry.
Hi, Sarah.
That's Kerry.
Oh, Kerry. Hi, Kerry.
Hello. Lovely to meet you.
Look, EzTemper.
You
Seren is 9 years old tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
Birthday girl. Go.
Uh-huh.
Let me get into your chat.
Do you have a big party planned?
It's gonna be tomorrow.
We've got some.
Do you ask for a special chocolate for your birthday or a cake?
Special chocolate.
Um,
You make your own chocolate.
Ah,
And
yes.
I can make chocolate and cake.
And cake. Well, hey, yeah, why not?
She offered everybody on Chocky Chat cupcakes if they buy butters. It's like you've got to keep that bit of the bargain, right? You are giving stuff away that I don't have.
Sorry about this. Sorry that I did not get cakes. I did not have enough time to bake them because my parents don't trust me with the oven because I'll burn down the house.
When I was your age, sadly,
this is my sales team.
Did trust me with the oven, which was probably not a good thing.
I think everybody in Chocky Chat knows Seren, and she's the salesperson that just arrives and leaves as quick as she arrived. What were we talking about then? I've forgotten. I've lost it. She always does that.
Sales to the States.
Yes. Yeah, sales. Yeah. So with COVID, I know lots of people that bought the tabletop tempera machines. I've had lots of, we've had a few thousand students in the last few years. As I said at the beginning, it's no invested, we didn't do a deal. It's not promotion. It's just to talk to you about like this amazing machine and the other things that it will do. Somebody's written a question there and says, was it only just for chocolate at the beginning?
No, actually, right from the beginning, I think what I recognized it was going to be most useful for was actually what's called melt away. I don't know what you call it in Great Britain, but basically coconut oil and chocolate, and
Right.
usually mint as the flavoring. So a mint melt away is a very, very standard piece of confectionery in North America. And if you read Peter Gruling's book, he tells you to mix the two together, the coconut oil and the chocolate, and to pour it out onto a slab and to work it. It's like you might as well just pour it straight onto the ground because it is so liquid.
Yep.
And so I would temper it over a bowl of ice water, but then the problem would be you'd get lumps and stuff.
Yep.
So that was one of the first things I thought, okay, I am going to temper this with silk, and sure enough, it works a treat. It's a world of difference. You get that lovely, creamy, smooth consistency that you're after, that you can't get in any other way of trying to temper it. So
I think the bit that fascinates me is how quickly it works, right?
yes.
Because
Well, yeah, I can
less
come home
less
from work.
than a minute and I'm shelling,
Yeah.
right? And
I
I can now choose what temperature I want to shell my chocolate at.
Yes. So you can have white chocolate much less viscous than it would be if you had to take it down to like 28 degrees, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, I will shell everything at 32.
Yeah.
And there's quite a few people like, oh no, you sure? The side of the bag says this. The information on the side of the bag is from an era when we did tabling,
which
right?
has nothing to do with what we're doing these days. Yeah.
It's almost obsolete information.
I would come home from work. I could go down into the basement. I could decorate a mold. I could shell a mold. I could make a filling. I could fill the molds, and I could back them off, and I could be upstairs in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might have to go back down and take it out of the fridge for that last.
I've had students here, and I've said, like, we can make chocolate start to finish in an hour. And if I've got these, we've got where we do production, I have little runoffs, right? So we've got tiny little bottles which we'll put in EzTemper's. So when I've got students and the task, do we do this? Is like we can do them in an hour, right? Less than an hour, because this is theory that you decorate on day one, shell on day two, fill on day three, and cap them, finish them on day four. And if it took me 4 days to do chocolate, I'd be out of work.
Out of business. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So we put those. So it's a little bit thick. For 2 seconds, quick shake. You can decorate all the mold.
Yep.
As soon as that's dry, we'll use the fridge just to speed that up a little bit. As soon as that's dry, we'll melt the chocolate. We'll add the silk. We stir less than a minute. As well as that's well blended in, we can shell. As soon as that's retracted, and we don't always wait because I know it's going to shrink. I know it's going to retract. We'll fill them. And if I temper the filling, if we do gandouille or something, it will firm up very, very quickly, and it will come out of the fridge, and we'll cap it and turn them out, and they're like shiny glass. And this is what gets the head scratching. That, well, I thought you needed to wait. Well, it's either tempered or it's not. It's not. It might be. You can leave it for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, but nothing's going to change from. Like, nobody's going to break in the night and make the molds, and it's not going to get better. There's no. It's either tempered or it isn't. So you do them in 45 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna challenge that.
The challenge. There we go.
Don't think doing 45 minutes might make probably take me that long to find the chocolate. I think something somewhere.
That can sometimes be an issue. Although most of what I need is in my chocolate room.
I'm split between here and another workshop, so
that makes it more challenging.
So Kathy's saying excellent tip for the melt away. Just joined. This is somebody saying I've just joined. Is this the creator of EzTemper? No, this is the inventor of EzTemper, right?
Yep.
And you're a doctor as well.
Yeah.
Medical doctor.
This is my second thing today. Yes, I started out in the men's mission this morning, seeing a bunch of guys there, and then I went over to St. Patrick's Church where we vaccinate and do wound care and stuff in the afternoons. And then came back here to work to chat with you.
Have a chat. Yep. There's one last question here. When do you think version 3 will be available for purchase?
Okay,
You
you need
wish
to
you hadn't
talk to
said this at the beginning now.
you need to talk to my husband.
If somebody
Um,
buys the 100, then quite soon.
uh, well, yeah, I don't know if that will necessarily speed it up, because I mean, there's still the work required to get the stainless, to get,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
design this, design that. Yeah.
Yeah, I get the same questions about new colours, and it's not like we throw it in a bowl and mix it together, and like there's legislation and regulations and all sorts of stuff
Yes.
that you have
Yes.
to.
Now, out
Um,
of curiosity, are you still using titanium dioxide?
yes, we do. Yeah, yes, we do. We make a product with it. It's only the EU where it stopped. There's a couple of other
Yeah.
countries where
I
um, there's a
noticed your white was beautifully white, so I figured
yeah.
it was.
Interesting. I was reading a report. I mean, it's one of those questions I get. I mean, I get two varieties of. It's only really the EU that's got the blockade or the ban on it.
Right.
There's a couple of other countries that have stopped it, but oddly enough, it's not allowed in food for sale, but it is in medicine and toothpaste.
I, I think about, yeah, and makeup and all of the rest of that stuff. Yep.
But there was a so the Medical Council of Canada just released a statement recently probably in the last kind of 7 or 8 weeks about their investigations into titanium, and I think I answered this on the chat the other night that they found no evidence of nanoparticles. They found no evidence to back that up, and I think it depends where you read. We produce a product, and that's for if the customers want to use that, they can. We have an alternative, and if they want to use that, they can. There is a difference between natural colors and azo colors.
Yep.
We make a product, and it's really up to the people what it is that they want to use. People like beautiful colors. They love shiny bonbons. I mean, if anybody's ever done markets, you have people walk along and they go, "Are they? What are those?" And you say, "Well, they're chocolates." They're like, "Are they edible?"
No, I couldn't
I
eat
thought they're
them because
marbles.
they're too pretty.
Yeah, yeah. Are they edible? They look too nice. It's like, no, no, they're edible. You
Yeah.
should eat them and
Yeah.
come back and buy more,
Yeah.
right? It's still relatively new because we were only really doing this 2007, 2008, right? In big kitchens, and then it's COVID. Everybody became an amateur baker,
Yeah.
chocolatier.
And
There's some
sourdough.
incredible businesses. Yeah, there's some. Well, every other house was an amateur baker, right?
Yep.
So um, it's a positive. You know, back to that titanium. It's like, can I use it? Can't I use it? Some people prefer lots of sugar. Some people don't. I think it's you make what you want to make and decide what do you want to use, right?
I,
It's not
I'm a
for me.
I'm a big fan of titanium dioxide. I mean, it's really about the only thing that gets you the colors that you're after, in
Um,
my humble opinion. I mean, the other ones look like polar bear white because
we have
that's not
well, we've got one here, right? And it's called Not Quite White
not quite white. Yeah. It's
because
like that
because
wedding dress
it's not
that's
quite
not
white.
quite white. And what does that
Uh,
really mean?
it doesn't have the opacity of titanium. So titanium is very good at
Yeah.
blocking other colours
Yeah.
through. But there are other oxides. We're working with a company at the moment that's got a new product, and we've done some testing. And it's a company in Germany. We're always looking at what we're doing for
Yeah.
alternatives and other bits. Same as
Yeah.
like the silicate mica and just looking at the ingredients and the purity of it.
Yeah.
We've learned some huge lessons manufacturing now in terms of for the core ingredients they want to add bulking agents
Right.
or what's called backers, right? And I say, well, why would I want to bulk it out? And they're like, oh, you double your profit. No, 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 I want to make an amazing product.
You say, I'm not a drug dealer. I don't need to add that to my.
Absolutely
Yeah.
right. So my focus is not, for my wife and I, for our business, our focus is not making money. Our focus is making an amazing product. The money follows, right? And
Yep.
I think this is a common process for everybody. I guess it's kind of got some success. Titanium is one facet of it. There are other products that we can use. We've learned some huge lessons as we've gone along on what bottles to use and labels and UV this and regulations in different
Yeah.
countries. And it's just testing. Rania will buy new new butters from different, stuff that's from Indonesia is really, really nice. Very, very pale. Makes the whites really, really nice. Doesn't have the flavour profiles that we're looking for. The ones that are from other areas, slightly dark. I mean, the hue of colour between them is gigantic.
Is it all deodorized cocoa butter that you're using?
We don't use deodorized. We use a natural raw. It's a natural raw organic product, but it goes through an alginate plate.
Okay, you kind of deodorize it yourself.
Yeah, it goes through an alginate plate at 150 microns. So it's, by the time it gets to us, all the impurities have come out. And my EzTemper's set at 32.3, and I've got a fairly, because there's virtually no I can't think what the word is. There's nothing. It's very, very pure butter. So it's much more liquid at a lower temperature. And this is one of the things that we discovered. I think early on, my wife bought me so many different butters and said, test these, see what you could do. And we really, Kerry, we started doing this because we couldn't get, it was COVID and we couldn't get the colours.
Right.
Nothing was shipping, right?
Right.
It's like, well, I'll make my own. And people had a look at them and said, what colour's that? It's like, it's my one. And I think we had 5 colours, 10 bottles of each. And they sold. And then my wife, that's from a manufacturing background, she just went straight in and bought me 10,000 bottles. And it's like, right, suppose I better, but I suppose I better get my skates on and start. And it's grown from there, and other products and other things, and the teaching. The EzTemper's been crucial through all of it, truly. Been a fab journey, and I think for you, it's been a fab journey, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's never.
Do you still enjoy making chocolates?
What's that?
Do you still enjoy making chocolates?
Oh yeah, but I haven't had time since COVID to do the amount that I used to do.
That's good.
COVID has. I mean, I was responsible for all of the swabbing and all of the results of all of the swabbing on the better part of Hamilton homeless community, plus the staff that take care of the homeless community, plus we had long-term care facilities and a whole bunch of other things. So I was up till way past my bedtime every night dealing with all the positive results.
Wow.
Now things finally got better, but then of course we started vaccinating people, so there was all that. Now I'm starting to get my life back.
Okay.
And starting to think about traveling again. So my next traveling, so the only place that I have been since COVID, I came back from northern Italy in front of their first outbreak. I came back from the Netherlands in front of their first outbreak. And I came back from Michigan in front of their first outbreak and didn't travel again until we went down to Charlotte, North Carolina in summer, which is not a good time of year to go to a really, really hot place.
A bit warm, a bit humid.
Yeah, it was stinking hot there. Now the next trip that I'm going to take is actually down to the workshop that Ruth and I are running in Texas.
Okay. Wow.
And we're going to try to hit you up for some sample sized bottles so we can show everybody. I didn't realize when she posted something talking about your cocoa butter colors, I'm thinking, how do you get cocoa butter colors from England? She said, well, I just bought them. Oh.
No, well, so Kerry's book, right? I'm going to do a plug here.
Yes.
Not Kerry's book, Ruth's book, right?
Yes. Candy making.
So she wrote that with her mum a few years ago, and one of the guys on so Billy Scottish Chocolates, he works in IT. He makes chocolates as a little bit of a hobby. He does the kind of chocolates that most professionals would love to have in their showroom.
Yep.
So he makes a mold or two a week. Absolute incredible talent, but he's like, no, they're not for sale. I make them for the neighbours and for me. He started talking about the fondant, and then he said the candy making book, and I thought, I've got that somewhere. I know I've got that somewhere. And then I saw the name, and then Ruth popped up on the Chocy chat and said, yeah, I wrote that book with my mum, and it's like you're never far away from somebody.
Oh,
so
yeah, 6 degrees.
Ruth came on and had a chat.
Yep.
She's another, she's a industry sweetheart, right?
Yep,
and
sure.
So you're going to run a class. I'd love to be in that class.
We've done these workshops. I did the first one in 2009 at Niagara College in Niagara on the Lake, Ontario.
Yeah.
And it was all the people from eGullet. It was one girl who said, we should get everybody together and Kerry should teach us everything she knows. She has never attended a workshop. Never. But
Okay.
here we are. So 2009, we did that one. I think we did the next one also in Niagara on the Lake. And then we went to Washington. And then, so we have been Toronto, Vegas a couple of times. Where else?
Sounds like that sounds like a girl's holiday to me, Kerry. That's
Well, it's not all girls either. Not all girls either.
okay.
But we do enjoy ourselves. It's easier for me when it's actually not local because it means I don't have to take my entire basement.
Okay.
So that everybody has choice to play with.
Yeah. I will. I'll certainly send you some. Well, I'll send you some products. Not a problem at all. I sent Ruth some, and then I sent her some samples, and then she just did an order anyway. Yeah. And now she's like loving these. They're very different. They're very fluid. They smell nice. They taste nice, which is the reason we started making them. Yep. Because the product, we had a blue from another brand. I won't mention the name, and it tasted like diesel.
Oh.
Which is not good. Or it smells like diesel. And my wife and my girls were like, not eating
You're
that.
not putting that in there.
No way. So it made us do a little bit of research, and as we got further and further into it, and like anybody that runs their own business, you really dial into what's going on and why and what, and you start discovering all these things that there are manufacturers that get the cheapest color and put it in the cheapest butter. Mm-hmm. And we said that actually there must be something better on the market than this, and there wasn't. So I started making it.
Yeah.
And here we are. 3 years later.
Been getting samples from many different companies over the years. There was the one bad year at Niagara where I put all the colors on top of a little warmer.
Yeah.
And the bottoms melted out of every one of them. And when we came in the next morning, the floor was covered in colored cocoa butter. But so there is cocoa butter in my house that's probably almost 20 years old. And so every bottle gets opened and smelled, and if it smells foxy, straight into the garbage. But often I'll just make my own.
Kerry, I'll send you some. I'll send you some of these.
I saw that looks like the little dots. Is that similar to Flower Powers?
Oh, these, yeah. So okay, so yeah, similar. These are cocoa pearls. These are cocoa pearls. They're 50 grams. They're 0.3, but they're 5 times the power.
Right.
So if you wanted to color, I mean that's a yellow. If you wanted to color white chocolate, you can use, but it dilutes it down, so you end up with a 5-drop chocolate, and nobody wants a 5-drop chocolate ever.
Right.
You'd have to scale 3 times, right? So I think that we were just trying to find a better alternative to. With an organic, nice flavoured cocoa butter that's got the smell and the taste profile, not the other profile. So yeah, these, I mean, fairly new product these, and we do, I think, five different colours, and we've done lots of testing with them. Lots of patisseries use them rather than chocolatiers.
Do you put the titanium dioxide in those as well? Like, do you have titanium dioxide of those?
So these are all separate because we've got one that's just white. Right. That's titanium.
Yeah.
So you can start if you do a red and a white, you'll get one. If you do a red, a white, and a blue, you're going to get purple. So
you need to make that little color cart that says 2 of these, 1 of these. I know that would be
day now. So
that would be copying or what?
Well, no, there are always color cards. I think that we've done these in 0.3 grams because the other product, you have to cut them down. And when you cut them, they shatter into a million pieces. Yes. And the regulations on what color you can use is quite defined, right? And certainly in kitchens with younger chefs, they're like, well, I'll just throw a bit more and then I'll throw a bit more. And the next time they make it, it's like, Why is it a different color?
Yeah.
So we did it as 0.3. So there are people that use them. They'll put them on a plate and just warm them gently, and use them to paint quite intricate things.
Yeah.
Right. Or they'll use them to blend some of their own colors. And then the patisserie people that are doing glazing.
Right. Yes.
They're fat soluble.
Yeah.
Because they're fat soluble, they'll use those for doing some of the glazes, some of the shiny
Right.
glazes, and doing all those bits and pieces. I think everything that we've done has just been a solution for chocolatiers or for patisserie people, right? Same as the luster dust. It's just pure luster dust. There's no backing in it, so it sticks to the molds and it's much more vibrant, and you don't need to use as much. So I don't want a handful of rice flour added to something to bulk it out.
No.
Why would I?
Yeah.
So it's really only for retail to try and make more money. The problem is the end user, us, are not getting the purest component to do the amazing work, so we can sell our product, right? So it made sense to me. I've been a chef a long time, and it's always going to be about taste and flavour and how do I get the best out of what I've got, right? I'll certainly send you some. So there's lots of people asking now, when's the workshop in Texas? I've got lots of spaces because
I think there's Ruth, what is there? Three spaces left? It's May 17th, 18th, 19th. It's in just outside of Austin, at TCF Sales. They're just opening a new facility, so we're making them make it to our liking.
Okay, I think you might get some Chocy Chat crew members there. I would love to come to that. I think it'd be absolutely amazing. Oh no, the sound's cut out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so we put this together initially with.
Is it just chocolate, right?
This is eGullet, the eGullet chocolate and confectionery workshop. It's not what it was called when we first started out. The idea was we taught each other what we know, so it was going to be a cheap, quick and dirty way to teach each other what we know.
Yeah.
I mean, initially the first one, it was me teaching everybody everything I knew. That was exhausting, and I very soon, very easily learned to give up control and let other people teach other people. And everybody knows something different, and everybody has different skills. So we sort of go into it. Like we have a planning thread on eGullet, and it's like, what do you want to learn?
Yeah.
This year with colored cocoa butters, we're not bringing any airbrushes. So it's going to be techniques that don't require airbrushes.
Yep. Nothing wrong with hand painting and sponges. There's so many options.
Indeed, although you know people try to get the same effect with a paintbrush that they do with a spray, and very quickly looks like shit. So yeah, it's what techniques can you use to get very attractive effects, but not have to pull out your airbrush, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, airbrush has its shit. I mean, I teach a lot of airbrush, but I always do say, like, it's not the be all and end all.
No.
You still need to be,
No.
There are some designs that don't require. It's great for volume and it's great for backing. Do you know, if you want to back spray something with white, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
You're done and dusted. Comes with its challenges. I think the biggest one is they overheat the airbrush, and when they put the cocoa butter in it, they take it out of temper, and then they're spraying away happily, and then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's the number one fault.
Oh, yeah.
I come across.
Initially, I find most people, it is the fear of the airbrush. It's something new. It's terrifying. It took me, I don't know how long before I actually pulled out what I bought.
I have a lot of students here in this workshop, and they give it it gets a white knuckle, right?
Yeah.
When they're spraying, they're gritting their teeth,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And their knuckles are up,
Yeah.
and it's like, just
Relax.
chill out a moment. This is supposed to be like an enjoyable, like literally, it's like your teeth's going to shaft. Just stop, and they're like, "Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to drop it." And like, well, you're holding it you're holding it so firm, nothing's going to come out, or they're, you know, and they've literally got an indent on their finger, and it's like, should we get you some water to rehydrate? Um, People are scared, and it's a foreign. They're not used to having it. I mean, I've been playing with them for kind of 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of used to it. But people don't know whether to use their thumb, their finger,
Right.
their
Yes.
and it just feels, and then they don't pull it. It has all these issues. So I think it's probably going to be an amazing workshop. That I think it sounds like it's going to be an amazing
Oh,
workshop.
it always
I will.
is. It always is. I think last year's was not maybe quite as exciting because we were working in an area that was a little smaller and we didn't know what all the stuff we had to work with. So basically, we just bring stuff and it's like, oh, okay, well, I got pop rocks. Let's see what we can do with pop rocks, right? And I mean, ideally, we have a couple of tempering machines. One year, well, when we started, we had no tempering machines. So it was
No, you've got
basically
EzTemper.
mold arts. Well, this was pre-EzTemper.
Oh, really? Okay.
EzTemper didn't come in until 2015. This was 2009 that we did the first one, right? So Rodney would spend his entire day keeping a mold art in temper. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Thank God for Rodney because it wouldn't have been
Yeah,
any
and then it over tempers and thickens, so
Oh
it's
God.
like hair
Oh
dryer,
yes. Oh
heat
yes.
gun.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
like shelling with a one drop chocolate, right? Eventually.
Oh yes. Yes. Yes.
The Rev Deltas. Um, I I get this question a lot. It's like, should I buy a Rev Delta? Should I get an Easy Temper? And I said, well, it depends on your budget, but some of the Revs tabletops will do £4 or £5 of chocolate.
Yep.
What do you do with the chocolate that you tip out? Because if you put it back into the Rev, the temperature goes up and it goes out of temper. So your first batch is good. You're like, what do we? And I've always said, like, if I was going to scale up, we could get a tempering machine, but my students, that's not what I want to teach with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I have to do is melt chocolate, which is not difficult, right?
Yep.
And I need to get it to around about 34 degrees,
Yep.
and then we can add the silk to it, and we're away, right? And I can choose milk, white, dark, microwave, whatever.
All the same temperatures. Yeah.
All the same temperatures, and we shell all of them at 32, regardless.
Yep.
And that's got a lot of people's heads scratching because they're like, well, I thought you had to use white chocolate at 29.
Only if you do the traditional things.
Okay, and you know, you must remember the days back of tabling, the amount of air bubbles, right?
It's funny. I was never a terribly bubbly.
Okay.
Never really had a huge problem with that. I don't know.
I think we had,
because
I don't know,
think
as military, I think we had a
anything
very
in the
poor grade
air.
of chocolate. It was military. I'm sure it was Calibut blocks. Because then the next big thing that came out was the Calettes, and everybody was like, this is amazing. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I've smashed all my knives up, so now we've
all
got
the knives that have been destroyed.
yeah,
Yes.
I've got a drawer full of them. Okay. Do you want to carry on talking, or
I'm happy to.
I don't mind?
You know that Kelly Jungstead is on here. I saw his name go by a little while ago, and he said hello.
I've got so hi Kelly. I've got so many people scrolling, but it's really hard to talk, concentrate, and I have to multitask, and I'm not good at that. I said we would chat for as long as you want to. So I'm just going to ask you something about the science of, because we talked about how it started. It's gone. It's totally gone. It will come back to me.
I certainly knew nothing about the science when I started. I mean, it all sort of evolved after I got those crystal.
But you studied medicine before you started doing the chocolate was a byproduct of.
So the first thing I studied was actually medical laboratory technology.
Okay.
I went from that into medicine. So I am a geek from way back, and science. I did microbiology, chemistry, and hematology. Those were my things in the lab, right?
Yeah.
And I did my advanced registered technologist in that before I went over to medical school. So I've got that lab background. That the latest toy that I have. So as part of the studies that we were doing during COVID, and now after COVID, we've been doing a lot of prevalence studies to figure out what the prevalence of certain STIs are amongst our shelter populations. There was some money that came in that they had to spend by the end of the year. And I said, I would really like a centrifuge, please. So there is now a centrifuge, a good centrifuge. I mean, I've got 2 other crappy centrifuges, but there is a good centrifuge in my basement. And what I plan to play with next, Chris Harvey had brought some products to our last workshop. He sent some things to our last workshop. Oh, sorry, I just need to say goodbye to Hugo. And these were flavors in cocoa butter that you could add to chocolate. So there was coffee, there was vanilla, and there was
passion fruit.
Nope.
Usually.
There was no fruity flavors. It was basically coffee. What comes to mind is coffee and vanilla. So I, of course, came home and ground up some coffee and put it in the machine. Basically, heated it with the coffee and then left it in the machine for months and months and months. Yeah. And now I will centrifuge that out, and I will then get the flavor layer with this just flavor. The other thing that I put in there was Fiori di Sicilia, which is kind of oil, kind of water based, right? So I have to centrifuge that to get it out. But oh my God, it makes that cocoa butter absolutely delicious. And that added to, so I take panettone crumbs, dried panettone crumbs, and I add that flavoring to the chocolate, and then I make a little bar, a panettone flavored bar. And I could put some fruit bits in there as well, right?
I love I've had a fascination with the food science. That's kind of been my career, with playing with gel and gums, also playing with amylase, where we used to put it
early in the game. I got into all of that stuff, the molecular stuff.
And I've worked for some incredible chefs where we were, we had rota vapes, we had circulators, we had as you said, the what did you call them? It's gone.
Centrifuge.
So you pull things out, and using amylase and when the gel and gums came out, where we could do a hot and cold tea, hot one side, cold the other. And I was always fascinated, but it went back all the way to when I was 16, where we would explain technique, they'd explain the science. So back in 1986, when I was 15 and a half, started cooking, we were talking about dextrinization. We were talking about Maillard effect. We were talking about and that's kind of been throughout my career, this fascination. And like with the chocolate and the research we've done into these colors, my sciencey chemistry brain has said, why does that one behave different to this one?
Yep.
And what are the characteristics that make it different? And how could I would like to look at some flavored cocoa butters.
Yep.
You've just made me think. I'm going to go to my wife now and say, I need to buy something.
I need a centrifuge. I need
a centrifuge.
Yeah.
And I need one that's going to give me the volume. So we're going to probably need like the 6 bar type.
Oh right? Yeah, you're going to need the one that I would have had in the lab when I was much younger.
And then we have access to labs, and I've always had that with the food safety side, and looking at all these bits, and it's not what's working, it's how does it work. Yeah. And if I understand how it works, I can then start doing, what if I did this?
Yes. Yeah.
And what if I did that?
Exactly.
And what if I could be, I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should, but I think
No, but you have to try it. Come on now. You have to try it.
We used to have this dish where it was basically a carrot, and we put one in a centrifuge and got the oil, the carcinoid oil of it. Which is the most disgusting thing you could ever taste. But actually, when you rehydrated the carrots in a vacuum, you could make carrots more carroty. Mm-hmm. And then one of the chefs said, just cook a nice carrot. Like, you got a point there. Just cook a nice carrot. You just don't have to be that clever with it, do you? It's like, but we can. It's a fascinating side, that, and then the theory of eating and colors and texture texture and how, you know, how do you get the best out of something, right? Um, I'm gonna have to pick your brains about how I can possibly flavor cocoa butters, because I think that's ours smell lovely, and I know that there are some cocoa butters that are flavored using a dehydrated powder. But the problem is I've tried them and tested them and you sprayed them and I can't get them to release as cleanly as
Yes.
just cocoa
Yes.
butter,
Yep.
because there's some fiber in there, and we know that the more
Right.
fiber that's in there, the harder it is for
Yep.
the chocolate. Well, you know, as those chains of molecules all wrap and then they shrink, any disturbance in there stops the shrinkage, right?
Yep. So
Um,
yeah, if you could just centrifuge out those fibers, you're probably already ahead of the game, even if you're using freeze dried flavors.
and it's hydrating them, but I could do that under vacuum, right?
Yeah, and you could hydrate them. It doesn't matter because basically the water's going to go to the bottom.
Yeah.
When you centrifuge, right?
You know what's going to be on my Google search history in the next kind
Yeah,
of.
I do. I do. Yep.
Okay, listen, Kerry, I'm gonna get going because I think that I get an hour and a half to do a live, and I've got less than 10 minutes, and it will just like it won't save, and I think there's lots of
Right.
people that are going to want to. It's so lovely to meet you and talk to
Lovely to
you.
meet you too. I have to go to see a guy with a burn
Okay.
apparently. So
Thank you for inventing this, because it truly has changed the industry. I think I did say to you, there's a couple of things that I promote actively, and
I
that's
love
them.
my Thermopens. I love all my products
Um,
actually from ThermoWorks.
yeah, where's Thermo? You know, part of ETI Limited, same company. They're crucial bits. We've got some very, very clever staff, but I think between the two of those, I just need a bowl. I need to melt chocolate,
Yep.
and I can kind of do whatever I want.
Yep.
And I think when students come in, and like with Chocky Chat, when we demonstrate these, because Chocky Chat is really, we're just trying to help chocolatiers. We're just
Yep.
trying to help people run their businesses, earn some money, so they can get on with living and do the fun things that they want to do in life. Right? The world needs, I think, nicer people that just help. Right?
Help each other. Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't run into too many chocolatiers that are really snarky with each other. There are a few of them out there.
There's not much ego. It's not like the hot kitchen that's
Right.
full of it and everything's a
Right.
secret, and you know
Yeah.
you'll be given the wrong recipe
Yeah.
before you get even close.
Yeah.
On the whole, most of them are nice ones are in Chocky Chat anyway, but they're all lovely human beings. So there is something about chocolate that brings out the
Yeah.
niceness in people,
Yeah.
and they're very friendly and they share. They're not afraid of competition, and I think that's a fantastic thing.
You know, the thing about teaching, it was always there was a teacher at Niagara College, and if he didn't like a student, he wouldn't teach them anything. And it's like, oh, sweetie, that's your job. Like, really. But I find at first, I think when the students outdid me, it was a little bit threatening. And now I realize, oh, screw that. No, I'm there to teach them the basics. They will shine. They will do amazing stuff. I'm not artistic.
You know what? Just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you can teach. I think they're very different
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Some break it down very easily. Some make it very, very complicated. I remember a teacher, Mr. Bailey, who he would explain chemistry in such a simple format that all of us sat in class going, "Oh, I get it." Then he'd look out the window and go, "Should we go and light a fire in a playground?" Well, of course, we were all engaged, right? We
Right.
all were
Exactly.
like eager to go. None of us said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't want to go to that class." If
Yeah.
your job is to teach, share the world, just get everybody
Yep.
filled with knowledge.
Yep.
There's no secrets. Everything we need to know about cocoa butter and chocolate, we already know.
Hold on.
There's no,
There's something new will come out.
but it'll be a technique, and it'll be a
Yeah.
flavor combination. But
Yeah.
the way we temper is chocolate's in temper when it has enough beta
Yeah.
crystals in it. That's it.
That's
That's it.
the first thing to learn. It's not like the old system, of course, of you know, okay, no, you've gone 1 degree too cold. You're going to have to start over again. It's like,
Yeah.
no, seriously, buddy, you just need to think your way through this. All you do is heat it up by 1 degree and it's fine. Like,
I stood on tables like 3 to the right and 2 to the left, right?
yeah.
And I stood there as a 16-year-old going, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm literally just swiping chocolate on a table, making ribbony patterns. And it was lovely. And I was military, right? So
Oh
I was
yes.
having a lovely time swishing stuff around romantically.
Yes.
And then it's like, can you hurry up? It's like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I
Yeah.
have no idea what I'm doing. Eventually, I understood it when somebody who worked for Charbonnel Walker said, actually, this is what's
Explain
happening.
it to you. Just
And it
yeah.
was like a light switch, and
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
And I still rely on that teaching method
Yeah.
now. And the things that he said to me when I was 16, I still teach
Yeah.
that because it's not difficult.
Yeah.
But listen, Terry, you need to
Yeah.
go and save somebody. I think
Oh, I don't
who's
know.
got burns.
I don't know if I'll be saving anybody, but
It's
I'll definitely go and
it's
treat
really
somebody.
lovely to meet you. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to share this, and then I'm going to tag you so that you can put it onto your
Sounds good.
thing, and then I'll put it onto YouTube. I'll touch base with you again shortly. I'll give you an email just about colours, and we'll get some stuff sent to you, and you can have a look. And
Wonderful. Actually, we'll send it to the workshop.
yeah,
Yeah, that's perfect because that'll be
absolutely
great.
perfect.
That'll be great sales.
And I hope to get stateside at some point in the near future. I was having a chat with Louis recently.
Oh, he is such a sweet man. So yeah, if it's May, come join us at the workshop.
I may well do.
Yeah.
I may well do. There's a lot of people in the US that I need to come and see, and Chocky Chat. I think we should. I think people would fly in to come and have a get
Yep.
together because they're dotted all over. Tonight there are people in New Zealand, Australia. There's somebody there in Alaska. There's somebody there in Taiwan. They are all over the world on Friday night.
Yep.
We built a little community, and I'm quite proud of that. But thank you for joining me. It's really been a pleasure. I hope we get to meet at some point in the future. I'm gonna go and find some equipment on the medical pages now. So
Get your centrifuge out of the cupboard. There
this
you
is
go.
this is going to cost me dearly, I think. But
Yeah, I suspect it will.
toys for the boys, right? Research and development, right?
Yep.
Kindest regards to you. Thank you so much, and I'll put you an email shortly, and
Wonderful.
we'll touch base again. All
All
right.
right. Wonderful.
I think you have to exit me, and then
Okay. I'm not sure how that happens, but I will try just Xing you out and see what happens.
happy days. All
Bye
right.
now.
Take care.
Ciao.
Bye bye. There we go. What a fantastic chat. How absolutely amazing. I'm going to save this because we've got an hour and a half. I'm going to save this. I'll post this. We'll get this one up onto YouTube. What a fascinating story. Sorry if I didn't answer all the questions. It's very difficult to have a conversation and do all that. I need to go and get ready for a young lady's birthday tomorrow or the next day. We're going to go onto Google as well. I'm going to go and ask Mrs. So Sassy if I can buy some stuff. How fascinating. Easy Temper. It's a game changer. It's changed the industry. And I think you've heard me say this so many times. If I was going to start my business again, it would have been a priority purchase earlier on. The only thing I can say with silk is literally fire and forget. And whilst it does seem quite expensive, it tempers the chocolate, it tempers your colours, it tempers your fillings, it speeds up the process. And there is no other machine that will do that in such an amazing way. So thank you to Kerry. I'm going to sign off now, and then I'm going to post this. So everybody have a nice week. Be nice to each other. Got some other guests coming up next week. Be back to normal. Can't believe it's the 7th of March already. I'll see you in a couple of days for episode 171. Everybody take care.